US volunteers to work with their counterparts in Egypt and different countries. Because of COVID, we are working with US volunteers and national volunteers, local volunteers, as well remotely, so we can continue the program interventions and activities. For this webinar, we are collaborating with the USDA funded TIE project, the USAID funded ERAS project, and the Food Export Council, the FEC. And we have responded to the needs of the FEC members to conduct this webinar on FDA food facility registration. We all understand that the US market is a very important market to Egyptian food industry, as for example, our exports in 2020 reached $180 million, which is representing 5% of the total food industry exports. The US laws and regulations require food processors that manufacture, process, pack or hold food to register their facilities with the US Food and Drugs Administration, the FDA. So there is a big need for the Egyptian food exporters and manufacturers to conduct this kind of training on the food safety requirements, the exporting and the food facility registration at the FDA. With the help of Mr. Mitchell Nelson, our US volunteer expert, he worked with one of our FEC members, manufacturers, and helped them to go through the registration process. And the purpose for this practice was to get experience and get the problems. And then he developed these guidelines on the FDA online registration. And our webinar today will cover the registration process and the hints on the exporter process as well. So I'm very pleased to have Mr. Mitchell today, and all our partners, the FEC, the TIEB, the ERAS project, and I really encourage all of you to listen and I mean, have questions, comments, anything, you can just post it at the Q&A part, and we will have at the end of our session today the Q&A part, so we can discuss and you know, answer your questions. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Lillian. Lillian? Okay. So,
Yes, hello.
Mitch? Okay.
Please all mute your mics so that we can have a clear voice. استأذن حضراتكم بس نعمل ميوت. بعد إذن حضراتكم نعمل ميوت.
لا أنا Admin, you can mute all participants, Lilian, please. صباح الخير عليكم. أنا مي خيري، مدير تنفيذي للمجلس التصديري للصناعات الغذائية. طبعا thank you very much everybody for attending, our members, our customers, and thank you for the project and also FDA for organizing this very, very important topic for our webinar today. I will just say something in Arabic for everybody. احنا إن شاء الله المفروض إنه السيشن دي هيبقى فيه تسجيل. التسجيل ده لسه هينمق ويعني يتوضب بطريقه معينه بحيث تقدروا تستفيدوا بيه كنوع من انواع التوتوريالز، وهيبقى فيه ماتيريال وهتتوزع على الجميع. فمعلش لو تسمحوا، هو ما فيش يعني ما ينفعش حد يسجل دلوقتي anyway، هي طالعه لايف، بس هيجي لكم نسخه تقدروا تستخدموها. Okay, thank you very much. Lilian, please take over. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mitchell Nelson, you are our expert. The floor is yours. How can I register in the FCE?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. Let me see if I can start this file off, and hopefully up. Let me see.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Okay, well, I need to do this. Okay, there we go. All righty. All righty. Thank you again for inviting me to this. I'm hopefully today is a learning experience, and also we'll have a little bit of fun as we learn and we go through this process. My name is Mitchell Nelson. For those who don't know me, I've worked a little bit with the Egyptian Feed the Future program before. I'm a retired senior agriculturalist with USDA and USAID, retired at the end of 2019. I just want to clarify some things before we really get into here. I include a lot of links and pictures and information from a lot of different websites, and a lot of them are paid websites and things like that. And I include them. It doesn't mean that I work for them. It doesn't mean that the Feed the Future program, USAID, our Egyptian hosts verify them, but it's just, there's a lot of material on the internet. There's a lot of free material on the internet. And so I just wanted to include a lot of those links so that if you have questions in the future, you're going to have resources to go to. And I want to make sure that, and one of the things that you need to understand about this process, it's a 3-step process, and it is free. The FDA for registering a facility does not charge. Now, private companies who would do this for you will charge you, but if you want to do it yourself, which is what we're encouraging, then it is a free process. So we want to get that out of the way. And I start with this slide on every presentation that I do. And the first thing is, I really want you to think, if you've got a pen, if you've got a paper, what I want you to do right now is I want you to write down 2 questions that you have about the FDA registration process. It's really, really important. I want you to write down 2 questions. In other words, why are you here? What do you hope to learn about the process? Because those 2 questions, if we don't answer them by the end of it, we want to find the answer for you. Okay, I do this whether I'm teaching food safety, whether I'm teaching English. I always start off with this. It helps engage you. It helps to get you started in thinking about, why are you here today? And the second thing that I want you to do is, I want you to write down the name, or preferably the names. You should have at least 2 people that are going to be working in your company that are going to be doing the FDA registration process. It's really important that you identify 2 people who will work, who do the registration and will be the primary contacts for the FDA. So go ahead and write those things down so that we can, is there a renewal for the FDA approvals? We're going to talk a little bit about renewals by the end of it. But don't ask your questions now. Be prepared to ask those questions at the end of our talk, or I'm going to be giving you some opportunities. But I always start off with this slide to help us get to thinking about it, about the process. All righty. Let's talk about exports. Hasim mentioned a few minutes ago about the US market. And here are some statistics about the export market to the United States from Egypt. It's a very viable market. It's a very hot market. And the US is willing and wanting to import products from Egypt. Many of you right now know about, for example, the baby food crisis that is in the United States because of some major food safety and basically bureaucratic screw-ups. And so they are now lessening and the restrictions on baby food products from foreign sources. And so this is an area that you can tap into. Okay. The United States is the world's largest importer, and 60% of our fruits and vegetables now are imported from foreign countries. So again, the market is there. The US also exports. We are we're number 2 as far as exports go. China, of course, is number 1. We're number 2. So the US regulatory agencies are very familiar with both the import and the export process. Registrations, all facilities that manufacture food in the United States, their facilities are required to be registered. It's not just foreign facilities. All facilities have to be registered. And you'll notice here in this numbers that the number of foreign registrations is higher than the number of domestic registrations. China is the number 1 country in the world for registrations, along with Japan. Right now, as of the latest statistics, 477 facilities unique facilities in Egypt have been registered. Okay, is this meeting about renewal FDA or registration only? Okay, sorry. This is about registering only, okay? But the renewal process is very similar to the registration process. If you have and we're going to go through the 3 steps process. If you already have an Fda account, then all you need to do is to go in and start the renewal process. Okay, how to register in the Fda. What is with black bold lines? I don't have any black bold lines to me. Hopefully we can go through here and you can see it. All right, so you are experts. You are experts in what you do, whether it's fresh fruits and vegetables, baby food, dog food. You are experts. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take your expertise, start where you are, and then we're going to walk you through today the process to become registered. Okay, today is not about HACCP, not about food safety, although a little bit, but it's really focusing on the area of registration. All right, here's the area that we're going to cover today, at least in my presentation. We're going to talk about the whys and the whos and the whats, and then we're going to go over the 3-step process. In order to register your facility or to re-register your facility, it's a 3-step process. If you already have a facility that is registered, then you've already done steps 1 and 2, and then step 3 is just going back in essentially and reconfirming with the FDA that your information still is valid. I've got over 30 years experience both in the import and the export from a regulatory standpoint. So with your permission, at the end of this, I'm going to give you some, from my standpoint of a regulatory person, some hints on export process. All right. The big why does the US require registration of facilities? It's basically, it's not an economic trade barrier. I know some people think it is, but it's basically in response to the potential for bioterrorism in food products coming into the United States or food products produced in the United States. And in 2002, the Congress passed a law called the public security and bioterrorism, where they demanded or they required the FDA to register and know what facilities are producing food both in the United States and internationally. But also consumers are becoming very educated in the United States, and consumers want to know where their food is coming from. And that has the potential, and that's where the registration process comes in. Where is the food coming from? The American public is becoming very, very educated on food safety and where food is coming from. Who has to register their facility and what type of products have to? Basically, fresh fruits, vegetables. This is a very young me back in about 1989, working in Japan on fruits being exported to the United States. But basically, your food products for human consumption and food products for animal consumption all require, those facilities are required to be registered. And again, the registration process, if you do it yourself, is free. If you fit into this category right here, then your facility requires to be registered. If you're just a broker, if you're just a shipping container company, your facility is not required to be registered. Registration, we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, requires every 2 years. Okay. Foreign manufacturer processes. If each facility has to be unique. Every facility has to have their own registration. You can't use one registration number for multiple facilities. Okay, we're going to go through a step-by-step process. There's a 3-step process, as I've talked about earlier. And it seems like a lot of paperwork, but each step leads into the other. And each step also pretty much asks for the same information. If you are exporting to the United States, this website right here that I'm pointing at, here's your key website. This is the website that will lead you to frequently asked questions, user fees, alerts, how to do this, how to register. This is the key website that you want to go to. And we're going to go through this. All righty. Step number 1. You've got to do this before you can do anything else. You have to get what they call a DUNS number, D-U-N-S. And this is a unique number that allows you to work and communicate with the United States government. I even have a DUNS number because of working with Land O'Lakes. Okay, the government wants to know who I am. Okay, and so your first step before you can get to the other 2 steps is to go to this website right here and you create your DUNS number. Okay, the gentleman or the person who's please a guidance on when to start the procedure. Okay, make sure that I answer that question at the end here. So step 1 is let's get a DUNS number. Okay. In order to get a DUNS number, you go to that website and you're going to fill out this information right here. A lot of the information that you do in steps 1 and 2 is the same information you're going to put on step 3. Email. If I was a business, I would create a specific email for this DUNS number and also a specific email for steps 2 and 3. They can all be the same email, but I would not use your company's general email address. I would not use a personal email address. I would create a business account and use that. Excuse me. One of the reasons is the reason for all of this communication is if something goes wrong, you want to have a clear-cut email address that doesn't get lost with your sports pages, your kids writing you or whatever. I tell everybody this, get a specific email address for this purpose. So you create your DUNS number this way, you check these boxes. This is free. This is a free process, but whenever you deal with the federal government, the United States government, you have to have a DUNS number. Okay. You can either go to the FDA website, which will lead you how to get a DUNS number, or you can go directly to the Dun & Bradstreet website, and I need to register with the FDA. Again, here is some guidance documents right here on the left-hand side. Here is a private site that I found very helpful explaining the DUNS process. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, it's a matter of filling out the document and submitting it. Okay. Here's an example of it, how you put your email, your password, how you register. You come down here. Are you a new user? You come in here and you click on registering. Okay. You're very lucky in Egypt. You have a Dun & Bradstreet office in Egypt in case you have problems. We had some problems earlier. I know that the Land O'Lakes and the Feed the Future team had some problems. I couldn't get the problem solved here, but they were able to get the problem solved by going into Egypt. Okay, so who can do the registration? Company manager, lever. Okay, very good question. That's a really good question. Anybody that you designate in the company can do the DUNS registration. I would have one person responsible for the DUNS registration, responsible for step 2, and responsible for step 3. You don't have to have that. All you need is the DUNS number. But I'm really a believer in communication. And so if you have multiple people on all 3 of these steps, you guys know something's going to happen. You want your FSQ manager? Actually, that's not a bad idea. Laboratory manager, probably not. But again, I would set up and create for them an email that addresses the FDA issues. I'd call it the FDA email box. That's my personal opinion of how I would handle it. Trust me, I've worked with the federal government for so long. You really want to keep your communication channels simple and clean. I hope that helps out. Okay. Now, again, this is something that I have learned to do and I've studied to do. We've been on this line for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. The statistics tell us, the psychologists, sociologists tell us 10 minutes into a presentation and you've lost most of your audience. Their minds are wandering, they're going someplace else. So one of the things that I'd like you to do right now, we've got 79 people online. One of the things that I would like you to do is I would like you to do a little bit of stretching. Take your fingers together, lift your hands above your head, kind of do a few twists, put your shoulders up a little bit, twist your neck, get that blood flowing. Maybe if you need to stand up for a second, go ahead and do this. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so let me see if that other person, please a guidance on when to start the procedure if I'm in a process of establishing a factory and didn't get my production line yet. I would start it when I get finance. You can start it when you get finance, but if you have a building and if you have a product, in other words, let's say you're going to do baby food and you have got a building, but you're not ready yet, I would go ahead, and because it's going to take a few months to do this whole process, I would get your DUNS number right now. I would do step 2, and I would start to do step 3. Okay. It's not as critical for you, the person who asked me, middle slim, but I would start it now. Again, set somebody aside, start doing the process. Your facility, don't worry about being inspected. You're going to have to agree to be inspected, but the way things are going right now, we're going to look at inspections. It's not going to happen. Okay, so everybody should have a few seconds to stretch, get those blood flowing, and let's go to the step 2. I hope you're finding this interesting so far. I hope I haven't lost too many people right now. Okay, so now you're going to create an Fda account. Now you're going to create an Fda account. So the DUNS number is, if you're ever working with the US federal government, you have to have a DUNS number. That identifies you as a person. Okay. Now, the next step is, if you're going to work with the FDA specifically, you have to have an account. Again, this is free. Okay. Here is a step-by-step guide, this link right here. I'll be sending, my colleague in Egypt will be sending out this PowerPoint presentation. All of the links are there, along with my narrative. I've got most of my narrative written down. You go to this website, online registration, you go account management, you click on it, and you will start the registration process. You can see me. This is my, in order to work for the federal government, I had to set up my own company, even though I do this stuff for free. So this is me. By the way, this is very typical of the United States government. We have something called the Paper Reduction Act, 1986. And all it did was it warns people about there's a lot of paperwork ahead. That's just the US. So you get onto this link here, you go down here, create a new account. Now, again, a person's going to create an Fda account, and I'm going to emphasize this in a few minutes. But this is different than registering the facility. Right now, this is the person that will be dealing with the Food and Drug Administration in your company. That's the reason I'm trying to keep, my opinion is, you keep that person the same person as you go along. Okay. All right. There again, the FDA is the FDA wants to make this as, I know it's the federal government, wants to make this as simple as possible. There are all kinds of free guidance out there, and we're going to give you the links to those. And Hassam has got a step-by-step guide he can share with you. And you can actually use this PowerPoint to walk you through the process. So you go to this link right up here. You can see where the links are. You go here, select create a new account. Okay. Again, these links here will take you there. Again, this is free. You create an account. This is right on the web page. They're not trying to hide anything. Okay, and then you start filling out the information. I want to, and basically, if you can see where I'm pointing at right now with my pointer, you want to check off those areas that you are going to export. With most of you, it's going to be food facility registration. Some of you may have acidified and low acid canned food products. Again, it doesn't cost anything extra. Okay, you check those on. Okay. Do you conduct work for a state agency? Probably no. let's see here. What do I have on my notes? Excuse me. I want to make sure I've written notes up. I want to make sure that I cover everything. Yep. Okay. Okay. Again, if you'll notice, they're asking you for the same information as with almost literally with the DUNS number. Okay. Your name, your address, what's the job title? You the FSQ manager, the name of your company. I put a star by here, and this is a box that I definitely would check. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and even my old agency, USDA, they love to send out information because they believe that if in this case, the exporter or the importer or the customer or the private person, if they have information, it makes their job easier. So I would check this block right here where the star is, because you will get alerts, you will get updates on the import export procedures, and it will give you really, you won't have to go searching for information. The information will come to you. Some people are afraid that the government is tracking them if they check this. They're not. It's just a way to stay in contact. The federal government, in my years of experience, even when we were doing paper, we really like to get information out. Okay, we're walking through this. Again, we're creating an FDA account. We're not registering your facility yet. We're creating your account that allows you to communicate directly with the FDA, and the FDA can communicate with you. Okay, this is mine. So I created my account. I went in and I checked foods facility registration and acidified low acid. So they will send me information on anything that comes up with these issues. And then what you'll do is you're going to go in here once you register for your account, and then you want to do your food facility registration. You click on that. You click on that. You can see my name up here, typical government name. Okay. All righty. That's step number 2. Okay. That's step number 2. This link right here will take you to how to the accounts, and they'll give you the most frequently asked questions. But if you listen and follow the step-by-step guide that we're providing to you, you really shouldn't have a lot of questions. If you do, ask them. Okay. Again, this is the time for the stretch break. I know I have a lot of stretch breaks, but I used to do a lot of these seminars and stuff when I was overseas and even in the US. And I'm a real big believer on just kind of clearing your mind. Okay. Are there any questions right now specifically on registering yourself? Okay. One of the questions that we get is, what's the difference between an account ID and a facility registration? That's a really good question. Okay, a account registration is for an individual who will be a primary contact with the FDA if something happens, and that account ID allows you to register as many facilities as you want to. So the registration number, which we're going to cover in step 3, is unique to a facility. If you are a baby food manufacturer, or if you are an olive exporter or a date exporter, and you have 5 different separate facilities throughout Egypt, you're going to need 5 facility registration numbers, but one person who has their account ID can register those. So the facility registration is for a specific, unique facility. The account ID It's for somebody who's in communication with the FDA. Many people get mixed up with this. As I was reading all of this information, I found this question to be out there a lot. Okay, let's see here. We got another question. Let's see here. Thanks. And let's see. And also the procedure to register an agriculture product, please. Okay. You agriculture product, or do you mean a fresh fruit, a vegetable? What do you mean by agriculture product, my friend? Do you want to type that out? We're doing, the time is going really well here. So we're doing fine. If you'll let me know about what do you mean by an agricultural product? Generally, individual products, oh, garlic, thank you. Products themselves in the areas that we're talking about do not have to be registered. Only the facility where you're processing the garlic or you're packaging the garlic up and put it in bags, you put it in a label, that facility has to be registered. The garlic, dates, olives, what other fresh agriculture product you have does not require to be registered. It has to meet the United States Department of Agriculture import regulations, which if you want, we can go through that in another seminar, but your garlic does not need to be registered, only your facility. Again, that's a very good question. You're asking, you're really paying attention. How about frozen or dried vegetables and fruit? Again, they do not require to be registered. They have to meet the import requirements of the US. And again, we can go through those if our sponsors, if my host want to do that, we can do that at another time. What are allowed from Egypt to the United States? Again, another seminar. Actually, that question, I cut my teeth on for 30 years. I helped write a lot of that stuff. So I'm very familiar with how to get that information. We can do it in another seminar, or I can later on send some information to you. But I would offer that information. Honeybee, honey, very good. Honey, okay. Honey, because of honeybee diseases, has some very, very specific requirements to meet. Okay, so if we do another seminar, I'll make sure that we include a section on honey. Food products such as pickles, good question. Again, we pick it up in another seminar. Or honey, yes, I can see honey. Honey is very popular in the United States. Not a bad product to export, but there are specific rules and quality standards that you have to meet on honey. I didn't realize that until I started preparing information for this seminar. All righty. In the USD and have was performed by an agent. Can I renew my registry directly with the app? You can. You don't need to use your previous agent. That's not a bad way to do it. Have somebody else do it the first time, then you go in and follow the links that I have provided you to get your new registration. Okay, you ask a question that I'm going to answer in a few minutes. What about the certificate? Okay, let me answer that in a few minutes. You guys, this is why I'm here for. I really appreciate your questions. Biscuits, candies are required to be registered? No. Ladies and gentlemen, you're registering facility. Spices and herbs, you're registering the facilities where they are processed. Okay? The spices and the herbs, the fruits and vegetables, they do not have to be registered. They have to meet entry requirements. Okay? Spices and herbs, we can talk about that. What about food oil? Again, doesn't have to be registered, has to meet the import. What about dates? Okay, everybody. Again, the facilities have to be registered. The other products have to meet entry requirements, but don't have to be registered. And I will be very rice protein, rice starch. Okay, So what I'm going to suggest is we'll get all of these questions together and we'll put something together. But one of the things that I want to warn you about on such things as food oil, dates, honey, the FDA has a whole section on labeling, and labels and mislabeling is probably, next to salmonella, is the #1 reason for rejecting a product imported into the United States.
Excuse me, Mr. Mitchell. I think the word facilities is not understood. So can you give us an example?
Oh, a facility is your building. Where are you? You're bringing the dates into a building, you're cleaning them, you're packaging them, and then you're putting them in boxes. That's a facility. I apologize. I never thought about that as a question. I greatly apologize. I should have. I'll go back and I'll revise this. But a facility is, where do you carry out the work to put together your product? If you've got baby food, what place is the baby food being manufactured? If you're doing oil, if you're making mustard oil, you bring in the mustard plants and you're processing them. That place where you process them, that must be registered. The person here mixed to everyone, artichokes and brine. So you bring in the artichokes and you're going to pickle them. That factory, thank you very much. The factory where the US uses the word facility. That's the reason I use the word facility. I apologize if I confused you all. But where you're putting this product together is what we call a facility. The factory has to be registered. Does that help? Does that help? Again, I apologize for, good. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for your questions. This really helps me. It also shows some people are awake. I never know when you do these ceremonies, it's much easier to do them live. I'm still trying to get used to Zoom. All righty. Again, very good questions. Remember, I've been telling people since I taught college in plant pathology, probably longer ago than most people have been alive. The only dumb question is the question that you don't ask. So don't be afraid to ask a question. Okay? It's really, really important not to go away without asking a question. Even if I can't answer it now, we'll see if we can get you an answer later. If I'm an exporting company getting products from a third party, that's a good question. If I'm an exporting company getting products from a third party, yes, the company that you're getting the product from does not have to be registered. But if you're the final factory that's putting this stuff together, you have to be registered. Your factory has to be registered. Is it acceptable for USA to receive a shipment without a manufacturing company name on the label? Labels, again, are not an area that is my strength. And so I do not want to answer that. You go to the FDA website that I gave you and you'll get that answer, or another seminar.
Michelle,
yes.
He means that a factory and then a trading company and then an importer. If he is the trading company, he just takes the product from the factory or from the manufacturer and with a private label and just handle the logistics and finding an importer. Is this trading company required to register on the FDA?
Okay, I'll answer that when I can go back again. Let's go ahead and thank you. We'll work on that question. Hold that question. I want to, before we lose, I'm manufacturing plastic packages for food industry. Do I need to be registered? No. We're talking about if you have food. Let's do let's go through the registration of the facility, and then I'm going to answer that question about the traders, because I have a slide specifically for that question. Okay, so now we've got our DUNS number, which is important. No DUNS number, you can't register your facility. No DUNS number, you can't get a account ID. So step one, get your DUNS number. Step two, get your FDA account ID. Again, unless you have a private company doing it, This is all free. The gold star means this is a step-by-step guide. So now you go to the FDA website that I've given you the link for here. You go down here, registration of food facilities, and you click on that and you start. Okay. You click here. So let's say you've got your ID. You go here and you go into your account. This took me a second to figure this out. So I went into my account and then I click on this, you see where the yellow arrow is? This is where you click on, and then it starts the process of registering a food facility. Okay. Again, this is really a lot of pages, but it's all trying to walk you through the process. Okay. You start typing out the information, your name, address, email. Are you a broker, distributor, or importer filer? You're a distributor. In reality, I clicked yes. The answer is no. You're not a broker, okay? You're not the importer, and you're not the distributor. You are processors. Do you take physical possession of the food? No, I don't. You will. And here's this facility holding food in the United States. Nope, you're foreign. Okay. Does this look familiar? Facility name, location. You've got to be specific on this. You have got to be specific. Remember, you only, if you own 5 factories, each factory has to be registered. Okay. Now, let me make sure that I get this down here. Right here, this is your DUNS number, your unique facility identifier. That's your DUNS number. Okay. If you don't have a DUNS number, you've got 90 days to get one. But ladies and gentlemen, get your DUNS, follow our step-by-step guide. Get your DUNS number first. All of you should be going and starting this week. Excuse me. I have to drink here. All righty. Your facility address. Okay. Sometimes in the US, if you in your country, but US especially, if you don't put down a complete zip code, they'll say this is a better zip code for you. That's just what that's saying. Okay, this is really important. And this is why I told you at the beginning to identify 2 people in your facility, in your factory, 2 people who are available 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that the FDA can contact in case your shipment is being held up, in case there's an emergency, whatever. They want a person, preferably 2, that you contact. Now, this is where this concept of the U.S. agent came in. We're going to get through here in a second, is you're going to need a person in the United States that acts as your U.S. agent. And I'm going to go what that means in a second. Okay. If you are a foreign exporter, which you are, you're going to need to have somebody in the United States. It doesn't have to be a U.S. citizen, but they have to reside in the United States, that the FDA can contact directly and say, we've got a problem with your shipment. Your facility is not registered. Your box is all broke open. Your honey doesn't meet the qualities. They want a person here that they can contact directly and that they can send paperwork to, and that you would be, the U.S. agent is the go-between your company in Egypt and the federal government in the United States. Now, I really researched and I asked the FDA a lot of questions about this U.S. agent. It's not really understandable. It's not. Let's see here. Here's what the job of the FDA U.S. agent is. This is somebody that you have to have here. Maybe you can get somebody with the U.S. or the Egyptian embassy, maybe somebody with the Egyptian Exporters Association can hire somebody in the United States to act as the FDA U.S. agent for all of you. But here are the responsibilities of the person. To me, it's not a lot, but it's somebody that's required. And this is where if you hire a private company to do all this paperwork for you, they will become the U.S. agent for you, and they'll charge you a yearly fee. And the yearly fees, I was looking at it, my notes say $100 to $200. I saw actually reality $200 to $400 a year to act as the agent. In reality, the agent doesn't do a lot. But it's required, and you need to put it down, and you will not get your registration facility number until you put down the U.S. agent. And let's see here. Could we receive all of this information, how to approach the FDA for registration step by step? I mean, in print way, yes. If you'll notice, if you go back on my presentation, I have links to the PDF file that goes through this step by step. In addition, my presentation is pretty much specific on the step-by-step method, but I have a link embedded into the presentation. You click on it and it will take you to, I've also sent that document to Hasim, and he can send it out as, why don't we send that document out, that step-by-step guide out as part of the presentation? I think that would be a good idea too. Okay, so after registration, are there specific requirements for each product? Yes, there probably are, especially if it's fresh fruits. Okay, and where can you get that information? Again, if you remember, I started off with a link to the FDA food importers and exporters. That has the central link to all of the labeling requirements and any other requirements. And where can I know those requirements? The FDA has a very good site. If you have something specific, we might be able to help you with. But again, you're asking a very good question. Okay. But this U.S. agent is probably one of the most confusing things to me. This is why the private companies, they offer it, because it's easy. But again, I would explore, if I'm the Exporters Association, I would explore, because the person doesn't have to do a lot of stuff. And so I would explore the idea of possibly getting one agent for a bunch of you. Okay, so section 9, is your food for human consumption or is it for animal consumption? Okay, very simple. Here's a really, really important step. This is a really important step, is you need to identify what category of food product do you have. Do you have cereal, bakery, candy without chocolate? And the reason for this is, I really like this. Basically, it's to help you. They want to know what category your food is, so that when you get when you register a facility, if there is an alert about a bioterrorism potential alert or a food safety alert on baby food, not necessarily your baby food, but if they'll know, oh, okay, this company in Cairo exports baby food. We're going to send an alert out to all the companies in the world about issues with baby food. So when you check that box, the FDA will know to send you specific information on your product. If you, by the way, down here with the gold, if you've got questions on this particular issue, your guidance document is right here. Okay. Box 37 is the one that you check that if you don't belong, let me see here. Go back. If you don't belong to one of these, you select and you click on box 37. Okay. You'll see this as you go through the documentation. And the person who said, can I have a step-by-step guide? We have a PDF document that just goes through each one of these steps. I'm covering the highlights and, in my mind, the most important areas. Okay. Here's the information about the owner, the name of the facility. Ladies and gentlemen, be very clear and be very specific. Okay. Again, fill this information out. Okay. And I'm going to show you statistics on this in a few minutes. One of the reasons that you're registering your facility is potentially the FDA will send agents to your facility and they'll inspect it. Are you meeting the food safety and quality issues that you say you are? And you can go to this link right here and learn all about the Foreign Food Facility Inspection Program. But when you sign up for this, you're agreeing to have your facility looked at. But I hate to say that, that's in theory. You can see the number of domestic facilities being looked at. With COVID, it's down to about 3,600. But you can see over the last couple of years how many foreign facilities have been looked at. They just don't have the manpower. Now, Congress is demanding that they become more active with foreign facilities. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you follow the guidelines and if you're doing what you say you're doing, do not be afraid of these people. Okay? Do not, you work with your export council, you work with the Feed the Future team, and if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, which I firmly believe you are, you have nothing to fear about a site inspection. In fact, I would welcome it if I were you. Why? Marketing. You could, if let's say your facility was doing dates and you were inspected by the FDA and you received a passing grade, you could go to importers in the United States and say, hey, I was inspected by the FDA, the USDA, third-party contractor, and I passed with flying colors. That's a marketing tool. So don't be afraid of this. But one of the reasons you're registering your facility is potentially you could be inspected. Okay, checking that. Okay, basically, who's ever filling this out, put your name down here. Okay. Step by step, ladies and gentlemen. Step by step, it's all there. Okay. All righty. Please review. They're going to allow you to review. So you fill this document out, section 1, 2 to 4C here. Here's all the sections. And again, a lot of this is from your DUNS number. A lot of this is repeat of your account number. So you're just putting it in another government document. And they're going to allow you to go back and review it and edit it. This certainly beats doing this by paper. Trust me. Okay, so they're going to, you click on the button to register. The big thing that will hold up your registration is they are going to contact the person that you put down as the register, as a U.S. agent, and they're going to contact them and saying, is this company in Cairo? Are you the agent for them? If you're not, if you don't have the right person, you will not get your registration, your number. So you need to get that U.S. agent. Okay. So we're at pretty much the end, close to the end of the presentation. Of right here is the link for the registration process. We're going to send you the PDF file that does the step-by-step, and it's a good review of what we just talked about. Okay. I want you to do, again, you've been sitting here for an hour. I thank you very much. They all say that you shouldn't talk this much, but there was so much to go through and I wanted to make sure I cover it. So let's stretch for a second. Let's loosen up those shoulders. Let's, did you realize that your fingertips have 3,000 receptors that attach to your brain? This is something that I tell the college students. So put your fingers together and get your brain flowing. And let's review the process. Okay, this is a summation of our steps. Step 1, I would start it this week. Do your DUNS number. It's free. Step 2, the Fda accounts number. You only need one account number to register all of the factories or the facilities that you own or you will be exporting from. Step 3 is dependent upon finding a U.S. agent in the United States. Okay, and this is where a lot of people just go, I don't know how to do this, so I'm going to go to a private company to do it. That's your choice. You don't have to, but you're going to need to have somebody stand in for you in the US. Okay, let's talk about the process and how long does it take. The person said, I don't have my facility up and running. Should I do this? So the DUNS number takes anywhere from 35 to 45 days, okay, which is essentially 2 months. The account, the Fda account number, immediately. As soon as you got your DUNS number, you put that in there, you go in and you do the paperwork, you immediately will get an Fda account. Okay. Registration of the food facility. I don't know how to get that out of the way. Let me see what I say on here. Sorry about that. The average for the registration is anywhere from 5 to 15 days. I think right now it's probably closer to 30 days because of the COVID, manpower shortages, et cetera, et cetera. The person who asked for a guide, the guide is right here, but we're going to send you that guide for putting up with me today. If you had to listen to me, we'll send you the guide. Okay. What and how to choose a reliable agent. Go on some of the, go on reliable. Again, I would get together with several of the exporters and I would choose somebody that way. Just search on the internet. I can't make a recommendation on an agent. It's out of my scope. But what are you looking for? You're looking for somebody, you're looking for a company or somebody who knows what they're doing, who has a history of acting as an agent for other companies. And so I would look and ask, how many companies are you the US agent for? What problems have you seen in the past as far as products coming into the country? And what have you been able to do about those products? So that's, again, that's what I would ask. If you go in and type in Fda US agent, you will see a whole bunch of companies offering. Can you send the link of registration, please? It's in the PowerPoint. Okay. I'm a little bit confused. Okay. If I've confused you, I apologize. If I'm an exporting company getting my product already packed from a facility that I don't own, do I need to be registered? Okay, I'm a little bit confused. If I'm an exporting company getting my product already packed from a facility that I don't own, do I need to, if you are, and I'm going to go back here, if all you are is the shipper, then you don't need to be registered. The company, the factory that is putting the product together has to be registered. Okay, and I've got a slide on that, and after this we'll go to that. Can I register my U.S. client? You know, that's a really good question. That would be one of the questions that I ask. If I'm, let's say I'm doing spices and I'm selling to McCormick, which my kitchen is full of their spices, I would ask them, would you represent, would you be my U.S. agent? They may not want to do it because let's say you're going to Lowry's, or you're going to send your product to more than just McCormick. You're going to send to other companies. If you're sending somebody just exclusively and forever, then yeah, they can be your U.S. agent. You can change your agent. You get an agent, you don't like them, you can go back in again because you've got a user ID. You can go back in and you can change your U.S. agent. You just have to let the FDA know. Okay, but I'm going to go through some steps on exporting. And you ask a very good question. And if you've got a U.S. client and they want your product, they may be able to give you a hint on it. Either they can act as your U.S. agent, or they may have a U.S. agent company that they deal with. Excellent question. That would be my approach. I frankly was thinking about offering it, but because I don't know how to do it, I just went ahead and said, no, I'm not going to do it, at least right now. So here's our timeline. Here's our step-by-step guide. Here is the renewal process. The gentleman, or I shouldn't say gentleman, excuse me. The individual who asked about the registration, it's at the same site as the renewal. And if you're renewing, oh, the Mickey Mouse here. They renew every 2 years. Your facility has to be renewed every 2 years on odd number years. So the renewal process, or the renewal process, takes place between October and December of an even year, 2020, 2022, 2024. So you folks that want to register your facility, if you register now, it lasts for 2 years. If you register after January 1st, it's only good for 1 year. So if I'm you, I would get this up and running now so that you have it. And again, the individual who said, hey, I had somebody do it for me, and then the second time I needed to renew it, I did it myself. Not a bad idea to do. Not a bad idea to do. Okay. Now remember, your U.S. agent is not your broker, is not your broker in the United States. Okay, it's separate. Okay, so I'm going to get to this slide about who has to be registered in a minute, but I want to give you, and if we do presentations in the future, or if you listen to me in the future in other areas, I'm going to give you essentially the same hits. I did this stuff for 30 years. I was the federal government. Okay, I was with these people right down here, and we did a lot of these people's work. Okay, here are my hints. First thing you do is know your market. You need to be prepared. Just because you have the best dates in all of Egypt, It doesn't mean you're going to have smooth sailing in your import market. You got to do your research and you got to know your customer. Many of these customers have tougher standards than the federal government does. So you need to do that kind of research. Okay? You need to be doing that kind of research. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, this is a killer. Number 2, once you establish a client and once you get everything together, test the market. Send a small first shipment. Don't send a 40-foot container of apple juice or date juice. Okay? What you want to do is you want to get customs, FDA, and my old agency, you want them to get used to seeing your label, how you box things, how your paperwork is done. Trust me, I used to do this. I used to be a line officer. And you get a big shipment, and if I've never seen that shipment before, I'm going to dig through it. But you send a couple of small cases, you show the paperwork, you get all the markings down, you get the labeling down, and customs in LA, customs in San Francisco, FDA, USDA, and once they've seen your paperwork, oh, I remember this company. Yeah, they did their paperwork correctly. The labels were good. Trust me, that is gold. Communication and feedback. When you ship your product out, find out when it lands, find out, talk to the broker, keep in communication with all of them, and also go to your customer and say, how was my shipment? Would you like me to box it differently? Would you like me to, were the boxes strong enough? Was there any dirt there? How did you like the labeling? Feedback and communication. I helped open up the Apple market for the US to Japan. First one in the country that did it. Both Apple's going from Japan to the US I did, and Apple's going from the US to Japan. And I can tell you where there were problems is because of miscommunication and lack of this feedback. It cost people a lot of money and a lot of time. So you want to keep your communication. Okay. And we did, some of you may remember, we did a seminar on food safety culture. And if we need to do that again, please, express that. But one of the points with food safety culture is everybody has to be involved. If you are shipping out, I'll go back to dates again, or honey, you need to make sure your producer understands what you are doing. And you need to make sure they understand the quality standards that you expect, that the US expects. You need to make sure your truck drivers, your packagers, the people who are sweeping the container, everybody needs to understand they are part of the process. I can't tell you how many shipments that I personally rejected because of dirt in the containers, because of broken boxes that the stuff leaked out and it caused insects to come in. So you've got this beautiful product, but if you don't get everybody involved with the export, you're going to have problems. Okay. You guys, as one of the first slides is, you guys are the experts. You're the experts in dates, garlic, whatever. But remember, you're now going to enter the big leagues, the big soccer leagues, the big cricket leagues. I don't know if you play cricket in Egypt or not, but I know they did in Bangladesh. You're going to be entering the big leagues and you've got a lot of competition. Okay. You want to make sure that competition is good. Okay. This is my team back in 86, 88, I think, inspecting fruit from Japan. Nowadays, Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection does 90% of the inspection for the USDA and the FDA. They're looking for bad paperwork. They're looking for torn boxes. They're looking for dirty containers. And what they will do is they will do the sampling for the USDA. They will do the sampling for the FDA. But you're mostly nowadays going to be dealing with Homeland Security. Okay. Here's a really good slide about reasons for rejections. I went to the FDA website the other day, probably on fresh fruits and vegetables and low processed products. Salmonella was the #1 cause for rejection. Okay, this is what we've discussed. It's a 3-step process. We discussed the why, we discussed the who, and I'm going to go back to that in a second. Yes, this is what kind of, do I recommend one person in a facility who works? Yes, that's what I would do. Somebody who understands English fairly well, somebody who's responsible, who likes to do paperwork. I would, in fact, when we, if you remember, Hasim, when we did the food safety culture, we really emphasized this idea of having one person or a small team who's in charge of the entire export process, who from production all the way throughout the end, who knows everything about the process. And I would recommend that same thing. Oh, this person asks a lot of good questions. But yes, my personal opinion, after being a former regulatory person, that's really, really good. Okay, I would definitely agree with that. Okay, good question. You guys have asked really good questions. Made me think here. Somebody asked about, information right here. These are all different links to different private companies. There's some private, here's what should I expect during an inspection? There's a guide, there's a white paper talking about what kind of an inspection does the FDA do. I would get together if I were you, and I would test out your facility. But these are all just different links, some private, some government links on this whole process. Okay, so the information is there. The information is free. It may seem overwhelming, okay? But again, you guys are experts at what you do. And so using this step-by-step guide, you're going to be able to do this. Remember, there's 400 companies already who've got their facilities, their factories registered in Egypt. Okay, I do not work for this magazine. I want to make this really clear. But this is the magazine that I go to all the time. Food Safety News, independent. They're as critical of the FDA as anybody. But I would go in here and I would look at this magazine once a week, because they talk about food. They talk about foreign food facilities. You notice here, this article here. They've just got really good breaking news about salmonella outbreaks in Denmark and whatever. This is just a really free online magazine to go to. And from here, you can get different links to other places. I want to end with this slide. This is one of my favorite. This is my Bangladesh Food Safety Management Group. I started when I was in USAID. I started the first food safety management 4-year degree program, university degree program. These are the first students who took a chance and joined that program. They're seniors this year. They had to put up with me. I'm very proud of these kids. And now is the time for our questions and answers. But I also want to go to this slide because you guys asked a really good question about what does it cover. And let's go to this slide here. Okay, let's go to this slide. All righty. So the question is, if you don't process, if you don't pack, if you don't store the food, if you're a broker or distributor, or a trader, you don't need your facility registered. So let's say you've got honey and you're buying the honey from somebody, a factory that produces and packages the honey, and all you are doing is putting it in a container and shipping it to the United States. You don't need that facility registered. However, if you're the factory processing that honey, boxing it, collecting it, melting it, whatever it is, yes, you need to be. Okay, so registration, owner, operator, agent, charge, okay. Let's see, but requires manufacturers, processors, packers to register. But if you are storing that honey, okay, so you buy the honey from company A and company B, and you are storing that honey to eventually ship it out, your facility does need to be registered. Okay. This is a really good slide. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Is there a site where I can find a list of the FDA? No, because that's proprietary information. I tried to do that and I got shut down. Companies that are registered, they want that information private. Small quantity of products. Should I register now in the FDA? Is it a food product? Aliyah, is it a food product? If it's a food product, it doesn't matter how small you are, you have to register your facility. Okay. Is there a site where I can find a list of the FDA? And as I said before, no. Maybe the Exporters Association might have that list already. And maybe they can help you. I'm not quite sure. Okay.
Yeah, there is a link on the FDA website for the establishment registration and device listing. So anyone can just go to search the database.
Good.
The name, some info. I can just get this at the chat.
I apologize for not answering that correctly. That's
no,
good.
no, that's fine. I mean, yeah.
I tried to get it in.
I just searched that while you were speaking. So
good.
Yeah, what okay. will help you.
Great, Hassam. You've got the link there.
Yes, I just sent it at the.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, if you could share the link, you did. The spices are a big deal, and there's a lot of for the Ms. Allah. I hope to learn to pronounce names. Spices are really important import into the United States because we don't have the climate for a lot of spices. So spices are a big deal. Your competition is India. This is the reason I told you, or I suggested to you, that you know your market, okay? Spices are a good quantity to export. However, because of the problems primarily with India, hopefully there's nobody from India online, spices are really looked at from a laboratory standpoint. Make sure you don't have any chromate, no lead, make sure you don't have, in fact, my first job in college was to look for insects in spices. I was hired by a company to do that. So spices are an excellent product to export. Americans need them, okay? But it's also something that's looked at very closely from a laboratory standpoint. And ma'am, or excuse me, anybody out there who's doing spices, again, this is where I really would send a small shipment first, okay? Because you want to make sure, and then your quality control on spices has got to be outstanding, because you're going against the big boys. You're going against Sri Lanka, you're going against India, you're going against, in some ways, China. But those countries have a lot of rejections because the failure to do quality control. So if you can get your spices at a high quality, you're going to have a good market. You're going to have an excellent market. Okay. regarding agriculture product registration. Again, ladies and gentlemen, your agriculture product does not have to be registered. The facility, the factory where you're putting it together has to be. However, how to get agricultural information about can you import tomatoes into the United States, et cetera. We can do a seminar on that. It's up to Hasim and your export association, whether we can put that together or not. I don't want to volunteer them. Oh, good. FAA registration process. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay. Okay, thanks. Good. Thank you, ma'am. Exactly. Since 30 years ago in McCormick through Giza Seeds. Very good. The person here who's on the iPhone, we have a good experience. Good. I'm glad. Spices are expensive in the United States. It's a good export market. I will turn this back over to our hosts. If there are any more questions, please let us know. And again, Hasim, thank you all. Thank you really for the invitation. Thank you for the Export Council for inviting me. I learned a lot putting this seminar together. I wish you all the best. I really do. And again, for the most part, the regulatory people, customs, FDA, USDA, they actually really want you to do it right. They really welcome a very smooth transition because the United States, we import and the consumers demand your product. So the easier you can make it, think about it, the easier you can make it for the regulatory person, the faster your product is going to go through. Okay. My friend, it's your turn.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michel. Thank you, Mr. Hossein. It's a very good idea, very good presentation in a smooth way. And we are welcoming so much our next webinar about the potential products that can be exported to USA, United States.
Okay, thank you, Lilian. Thanks, Mitch, for your knowledge and sharing experience on this very important assignment. I think we did this together in a very nice way. We have learned from the experience of registering one of the members of FEC at the FDA website and or the food facility registration, and would like to continue this effort. If you remember, our plan was to follow this webinar by a local volunteer that will help the members to register if they still need help, provide some technical support, introduce this webinar in Arabic. So, we all understand that not all of the exporters have good language skills. So we'll have this arrange this FEC to conduct similar webinar in Arabic with a local volunteer. So really thank you for all your efforts, and we'll discuss with you offline the potentiality of fielding you to Egypt. Be happy to host you.
I will send you my updated. I tweaked, as I was telling you before, I tweaked my presentation a little bit, corrected some things. I will send you that updated version today so that you can send it out to those who would like to see it. If you have more questions on this, I'm really glad you're going to have somebody who's going to be available to walk people through. I think it looks hard, as all government paperwork, I'm sure in Egypt, government paperwork in Egypt is hard, but I think the FDA has done a very good job of just walking you through the process. The hardest part is really getting your DUNS number and then getting getting the US agent. Once you do that, the rest is, as we say in the US, that's duck soup.
Good. Thank you so much, and thank you for the USDA funded TAIB, the USAID funded ERAS, and the Food Export Council, and for you. Of course, all members who attended today and participated, you have answered more than 20 questions. So it was a really active participation, and thanks a lot, and see you in Egypt too.
We'll see you again.
Inshallah. Yes.
Okay.
شكرا
Bless-
أستاذ حسين.
Blessings to you all. Good health and good luck with your exports. I look forward to having some of your spices here in the United States.
inshallah.
Bye.
Thank you. يلا have a good day all. Bye.
Bye.